Giardia is an important eukaryotic protist. The vegetative cells possess two nuclei, they are binucleate, and they possess two flagella, they are biflagellate. And they are intestinal parasites, which affect more than 300 million people annually. The vegetative form grows and reproduces inside the host intestines and then can differentiate by turning on the transcription of genes for a cyst, which encapsulates the organism in a protective cyst, which can now resist the more harsh environmental conditions it might encounter outside the host's intestine. These cysts can then contaminate water supplies or food and thus be introduced into a new host where the stomach acid will then cause the Giardia organism to return to the trophozoite stage. In addition to its importance as a major parasite, it may be of interest because it may be the most primitive eukaryote known today, or at least one of the most primitive groups. Now, this can be debated, but then all of Protistan phylogeny can be debated. There is great discussion over the branches of the various lineages of protists. Giardia is microaerophilic. It thrives in low oxygen environments, such as what it encounters in the intestines, and it does not survive high levels of oxygen. Is this a primitive feature inherited from the basal eukaryotes, which lived in a world where oxygen levels were lower? Or might this be a secondary adaptation for a parasitic lifestyle inside intestines? It was originally reported that Giardia lacks mitochondria, and thus may be descendants from the first eukaryotes, which had not yet received the endosymbiotic ancestors of mitochondria. Later it was shown that there are organelles, mitochondria-like mitosomes, which are in Giardia. So they must have branched from other eukaryotic lineages after the endosymbiosis. Are these mitosomes the result of a primitive descendant of mitochondrial ancestors which had not yet become mitochondria? Or was the great reduction of an ancestral mitochondria into a mitosome a secondary adaptation for a lifestyle in a low oxygen environment like the intestines? It was originally thought that Giardia was asexual, and then it was proposed that perhaps they had branched from other eukaryotic lineages before the evolution of sexual reproduction. However, it has been shown that there are genes essential for meiosis which do occur in Giardia. Does this mean that its ancestors were more sexual and it has reduced this form of reproduction so that it happens only rarely? There are a few other features which potentially argue for Giardia being a basal branch of eukaryotes. It is thought that they do not have Golgi, or that the ESVs, the incystation-specific vesicles, might represent a primordial form of Golgi. Few genes have introns compared to other eukaryotes, and several genes seem to be spliced together from separately transcribed sections. This also seems to be a primitive condition. And so while Protistan classification is in a state of flux, Giardia does seem to have a number of features which could be primitive features inherited from early eukaryotes.